The phone call that destroyed my marriage lasted exactly 43 seconds. I know because I was staring at the digital clock on our nightstand, wondering why my wife Sarah was giggling like a schoolgirl at 11:30 on a Tuesday night. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Of course I still love you, babe, she whispered into her iPhone, thinking I was asleep. He's nobody special. Just wait until tomorrow night at my party. You'll see what a real man looks like. My name is Jack Sullivan. I'm 42 years old, own a successful auto body shop in Millfield, Massachusetts. And until that moment, I thought I had a decent marriage. Turns out I was the designated fool in someone else's love story. Sarah rolled over, her blonde hair catching the moonlight streaming through our bedroom window. Even in the darkness, I could see her smug smile. 20 years of marriage, and I'd never noticed how cruel her mouth looked when she thought nobody was watching. "Who was that?" I asked quietly. She jumped like I'd slapped her. "Oh, Jack, you scared me. It was just work stuff, a client." At 11:30 at night? You know how demanding Mr. Peterson can be about his divorce case. Sarah was a lawyer at Whitman & Associates, the fanciest firm in our little town. She specialized in family law, which now struck me as deeply ironic. She was an expert at breaking up families, apparently starting with her own. "Right," I said. "Mr. Peterson." She kissed my cheek, with lips that had been whispering sweet nothings to another man 30 seconds earlier. "Good night, honey. Big day tomorrow." Tomorrow was Sarah's 38th birthday party. She'd been planning it for months, renting out Murphy's Tavern downtown, inviting half the town. I'd been looking forward to it, actually, proud to show off my successful, beautiful wife to our friends and neighbors. Now I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering who she'd really been talking to. The voice had sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. Someone from her past, maybe. Someone she thought was more of a real man than her husband who'd built a business from nothing and supported her through law school. The next morning, Sarah was all sunshine and fake smiles, bustling around our kitchen in her silk robe, making coffee and checking her phone every 30 seconds. "I'm so excited about tonight," she said, not looking at me. "It's going to be perfect." "I'm sure it will be," I replied, watching her fingers fly across her phone screen. She was texting someone, and from the little smile playing at the corners of her mouth, it wasn't about work. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister Katie. "Can't wait to meet Sarah's mystery guest tonight. She's been very secretive about the +1 she added to the list." Mystery guest. My stomach dropped. "Sarah," I said carefully, "who's this extra person you invited?" She looked up, and for just a second, I saw panic flash across her face. Then the lawyer mask slipped back into place. "Oh, just an old friend who's in town. Nobody you know." "What's his name?" "Who said it was a he?" "The way you're blushing says it's a he." Sarah's cheeks were indeed pink, but her eyes had gone cold. "Don't be paranoid, Jack. It's not attractive." Not attractive. Like I was some jealous teenager instead of her husband of 2 decades. I spent the day at my shop, trying to focus on work. Sullivan's Auto Body was my pride and joy, started with a $5,000 loan and a dream, now employing 12 people and turning a solid profit. I'd built something real with my hands, something that mattered. My best friend and head mechanic, Tommy Rodriguez, noticed my mood around lunchtime. "You look like someone ran over your dog," he said, wiping grease off his hands. "What's eating you?" "Sarah's acting weird about her party tonight." "Weird how?" I told him about the phone call and the mystery guest. Tommy's expression grew darker with each detail. "Jack," he said slowly, "you don't think she's cheating on me?" The thought had crossed my mind. Tommy had known Sarah almost as long as I had. He'd never liked her much, said she was too ambitious, too cold. I'd always defended her, but now his warnings echoed in my head. What are you going to do? Go to the party and see what happens, I guess. Want me there for backup? Nah, this is something I need to handle myself. Famous last words. I went home early to get ready, hoping to catch Sarah off guard, maybe see who she was texting. But she was already gone, supposedly getting her hair done for the party. The house felt empty and hostile, like it was keeping secrets too. In our bedroom, I noticed Sarah's laptop was still open on her dresser. She usually closed it religiously. My conscience and my curiosity went to war, and curiosity won. Her email was open to a message thread that made my blood freeze. Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. It's been too long. D. I know. I'm so tired of pretending with Jack. After tonight, everyone will see what a real man looks like. S. Your husband's going to hate me. D. Let him. I'm done caring what Jack thinks. See you at 8. S. D. Who the hell was D? I scrolled through more messages, my hands shaking with rage. Photos. Explicit photos of my wife with someone whose face I couldn't see clearly. Plans to make it official after the party. Discussions about how to handle Jack when the truth came out. 20 years of marriage, and she was planning to humiliate me in front of the entire town. I sat on our bed, the bed where we'd made love just last week, where she'd told me she loved me, and felt something die inside my chest. Not my heart, exactly. Something harder to replace. My ability to trust, maybe. My faith in the life we'd built together. But as I sat there, drowning in betrayal, another feeling began to surface. Anger. Cold, calculating anger. Sarah wanted to show everyone what a real man looked like? Fine. Tonight, she'd get her wish. I had 4 hours until the party. 4 hours to decide who I was going to be when I walked into Murphy's tavern. The cuckolded husband, taking his humiliation quietly, or something else entirely. I chose something else entirely. Murphy's tavern was packed by the time I arrived at 8:15. Sarah had outdone herself. Balloons, streamers, a DJ, and enough alcohol to float a small boat. Half of Millfield was there, all dressed up and ready to celebrate my wife's special day. I spotted Sarah immediately. She was wearing a red dress I'd never seen before, cut low enough to make a statement. She was laughing at something someone had said, her hand resting on the arm of a man whose back was to me. Then he turned around, and my world shifted into sharp, ugly focus. Derek Matthews, Sarah's college boyfriend. The one she'd dated for 3 years before we met. The one she'd always claimed was just a friend whenever his name came up in conversation. Derek looked exactly like what central casting would order for handsome jerk. 6'2", perfectly styled brown hair, expensive suit, and the kind of confident smile that said he'd never worked a real job in his life. He was a fitness influencer now, according to his Instagram, which I'd stalked obsessively during my lunch break. 50,000 followers watching him lift weights and sell protein powder. Sarah's idea of a real man, apparently. I watched them together for a few minutes, noting how she leaned into him when she laughed, how his hand lingered on the small of her back. Everyone at the party was watching too, whispering behind their hands, shooting me pitying looks. My sister Katie appeared at my elbow. Jack, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was going to. It's fine, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. It's not fine. This is humiliating, in front of everyone. She was right. Sarah wasn't even trying to hide it. She was flaunting Derek like a trophy, making sure everyone in town knew she'd traded up from the local mechanic to the Instagram model. I walked over to the bar and ordered a whiskey. Neat. The bartender, a kid named Mike who'd graduated with our daughter Emma, gave me a sympathetic look. Rough night, Mr. Sullivan? Getting rougher by the minute? That's when I heard Sarah's voice, amplified by the DJ's microphone. She was giving a speech, thanking everyone for coming to celebrate her birthday. I want to thank my wonderful husband Jack for organizing this party, she said, gesturing toward me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. and I want you all to meet someone very special to me. This is Derek Matthews, my dear friend from college." The pause before dear friend was deliberate. Cruel. She wanted everyone to know exactly what Derek was to her. Derek took the microphone, flashing that perfect smile. "Thanks, Sarah. It's great to be back in Millfield. I've heard so much about all of you." He looked directly at me. "And Jack, thanks for sharing your wife with me tonight." The crowd laughed, thinking it was a joke. But I heard the double meaning, and so did Derek. His eyes were cold and mocking, daring me to do something about it. I finished my whiskey and ordered another one. "Jack." Tommy had appeared beside me, along with a few other guys from the shop. "We should go." "Why? The party's just getting started." On the makeshift dance floor, Sarah and Derek were slow dancing to a song that had been playing at our wedding. Sarah's head was on Derek's shoulder, her eyes closed like she was in heaven. "Because you're about to do something stupid," Tommy said. "I can see it in your face. Maybe it's time for something stupid." That's when Derek decided to push his luck. He spun Sarah around, dipped her low, and kissed her, right there in front of God and everybody. A long, passionate kiss that left no doubt about their relationship. The crowd went silent. All eyes turned to me, waiting to see what the cuckolded husband would do. I set down my whiskey glass and walked onto the dance floor. "Excuse me," I said politely. "I'd like to cut in." Derek straightened up, still holding my wife. "Sorry, buddy. We're not finished dancing yet." "Actually, you are." Something in my voice made Sarah step back. She'd seen me angry before, but this was different. This was controlled. Dangerous. "Jack," she said nervously, "don't make a scene." "A scene? Sarah, you just made out with another man at your birthday party in front of half the town. I think the scene's already been made." Derek smirked. "Look, Jack, is it? Sarah and I have history. Real history. Maybe it's time you faced facts about what she needs from a man." "And what's that, Derek?" "Someone who can satisfy her, in every way." The crowd was hanging on every word now. This was better than cable television. I nodded thoughtfully. "You know, Derek, you're absolutely right. Sarah deserves a real man, someone strong, successful, honest." Derek's smirk widened. "Exactly. Someone who doesn't live with his mother at 39. Derek's face went pale. "What?" "Someone who doesn't lie about his income on social media. Someone whose fitness supplements aren't just repackaged protein powder from Walmart." The crowd was murmuring now. Derek's carefully constructed image was cracking in real time. "Someone," I continued, raising my voice so everyone could hear, "who doesn't send dick pics to married women while begging them to leave their husbands." Sarah gasped. "Jack, stop." "Oh, I'm just getting started, sweetheart. See, while you two were planning your little public humiliation show, I did some research. Derek here isn't exactly the success story he pretends to be." I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd taken that afternoon. Eviction notices, maxed out credit cards, and my personal favorite, a restraining order from his last girlfriend for stalking and harassment. Derek lunged at me, but I was ready. 20 years of physical labor had kept me in shape, and I'd been in enough fights to know how to handle myself. I sidestepped his clumsy swing and grabbed his wrist, twisting it just enough to make him yelp. "Don't," I said quietly. "You've embarrassed yourself enough for one night." I released him and turned to Sarah. "As for you, my dear wife, I hope Derek was worth it. Because as of right now, you can have him." I pulled off my wedding ring and set it on the nearest table. 20 years of marriage, Sarah. 20 years of building a life together. And you threw it all away for this loser. Sarah's face was white with shock and humiliation. "Jack, please, we can talk about this at home." "No, we can't. Because I won't be coming home. Not to a house where my wife brings her boyfriend to family parties." I looked around at the crowd of friends and neighbors who'd watched my marriage implode in real time. Enjoy the rest of the party, folks. The drinks are paid for. I walked toward the exit, feeling strangely calm. Behind me, I could hear Sarah crying and Derek trying to salvage his reputation. But I didn't look back. In the parking lot, I found Derek's car, a flashy red Corvette that probably cost more than he made in a year. I pulled out my keys and carved cheater into the driver's side door. Then I slashed all 4 tires for good measure. It was petty, but it felt good. Tommy caught up with me as I was getting into my truck. "Jack, where are you going to stay tonight?" "Motel, I guess, at least until I figure out what comes next." "You can crash at my place." "Thanks, but I need to be alone right now. I need to think." "What are you thinking about?" I looked back at Murphy's Tavern, where my wife was probably trying to explain herself to a room full of people who'd just watched her destroy her marriage for an Instagram influencer with mommy issues. "Revenge," I said. "I'm thinking about revenge." The Millfield Motor Lodge was exactly as depressing as it sounded. Thin walls, thinner towels, and a view of the highway that never slept. I'd been living there for 3 days, surviving on takeout and rage, when Sarah's best friend Jessica knocked on my door. Jessica Palmer was a fellow lawyer at Sarah's firm, a sharp-tongued brunette who'd never liked me much. The feeling was mutual. She had the kind of ambition that made Sarah look modest, and she'd been whispering poison in my wife's ear for years. "Jack," she said, standing in my doorway like she owned the place, "we need to talk." "Do we? Because I'm pretty sure you and I have nothing to discuss." "Sarah's worried about you. You haven't been answering her calls." "Sarah's worried about her meal ticket, you mean? She's probably figured out that divorce court isn't going to be as friendly as she hoped." Jessica stepped into my room uninvited, wrinkling her nose at the accommodations. "This is pathetic, Jack. You're living in a Fleabag motel, feeling sorry for yourself, while your wife is trying to save your marriage." Save my marriage? Is that what she was doing when she was tongue wrestling with Derek at her birthday party? That was a mistake, a moment of weakness. Sarah knows that now. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. A moment of weakness? Jessica, they've been planning this for months. I've seen the emails, the photos, the whole sordid mess. Something flickered across Jessica's face. Surprise? Fear? It was gone too quickly to tell. "What emails?" "The ones where Sarah and Derek discuss how to handle me after they go public. The ones where they laugh about what a pathetic husband I am." Jessica sat down on the room's single chair, suddenly looking less confident. "Jack, I think you're misunderstanding the situation." "Am I?" "Then explain it to me." She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her manicured hands. When she looked up, her expression had changed. The mask of concern had slipped, revealing something colder underneath. "You want the truth, Jack? Fine. Sarah's been miserable for years. You're a good man, but you're not enough for her. You never were. And Derek is?" "Derek's exciting, successful. He makes her feel alive again. Derek's a fraud and a stalker. But I guess that's exciting if you're into that sort of thing." Jessica stood up, her professional composure cracking. "You destroyed her birthday party, Jack. Humiliated her in front of the entire town. Don't you think she suffered enough?" "Suffered?" "She cheated on me, Jessica. She brought her boyfriend to her birthday party and made out with him in front of our friends. If anyone's suffering here, it's me." "Poor Jack," Jessica said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "The victim in all this. Do you know what Sarah told me yesterday? She said she wishes she'd never married you, that you've been holding her back her entire adult life." The words hit like physical blows, but I kept my face neutral. "Is that so?" "She's filing for divorce, Jack, and she's going to take everything. The house, the business, half your assets. By the time she's done with you, you'll be lucky to afford this dump." Jessica headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and Jack? That research you did on Derek? Sarah's already discredited it. Turns out most of your evidence was just gossip and speculation. Derek's threatening to sue you for defamation. After she left, I sat on the bed and stared at the water stain on the ceiling. Sarah wanted to take everything I'd worked for and give it to her boyfriend. My wife of 20 years wanted to destroy me. Fine. Two could play that game. I called my lawyer, Bill Henderson, and scheduled an emergency meeting. Bill had handled my business contracts for years, and he knew where all the bodies were buried. "Jack," he said when I walked into his office the next morning, "I heard about the party. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry, Bill. Get angry. I need you to dig up everything you can on Sarah's finances, her business dealings, and her boyfriend." "I can't investigate your wife, Jack. Conflict of interest." "Then recommend someone who can. Someone good." Bill leaned back in his chair. "There's a private investigator in Boston. Former cop, very discreet. But Jack, are you sure you want to go down this road? Divorce investigations can get ugly fast." "It's already ugly, Bill. Sarah made sure of that." The private investigator's name was Maria Santos, and she was everything Bill had promised. Professional, thorough, and expensive. But within 48 hours, she'd uncovered information that made my head spin. "Your wife's been skimming money from her firm's client accounts," Maria told me over coffee at a diner outside town. "Small amounts, but consistent. About 30,000 over the past 2 years. That's embezzlement." "It is. And there's more. Derek Matthews isn't his real name. He's actually Derek Kowalski from Cleveland, and he's got a record. Fraud, identity theft, and like you said, stalking. He's been running romance scams on social media for years." "Sarah doesn't know?" "Oh, she knows. I found emails where they discuss using your business as collateral for his debts. She was planning to forge your signature on loan documents." I sat back, stunned. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was planning to steal everything I'd worked for and give it to a career criminal. "There's something else," Maria said. "Jessica Palmer. She's not just your wife's friend, she's her partner. They've been planning this for over a year." "Partner in what?" "The embezzlement, the identity theft, the plan to take your business. Jessica's the one who found Derek and convinced Sarah to start the affair. She's been feeding Sarah legal advice on how to maximize her divorce settlement." "Why? What does Jessica get out of this?" Maria slid a photograph across the table. It showed Jessica and Derek together at a restaurant, holding hands across the table. "Jessica's been sleeping with Derek longer than Sarah has. This whole thing is her revenge fantasy. She gets Derek, Sarah gets your money, and you get destroyed." I stared at the photo, pieces of the puzzle finally clicking into place. Jessica's hostility toward me over the years, her constant advice to Sarah about how she deserved better, the way she'd pushed Sarah toward Derek. "They're all in it together," I said. "Looks that way. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" I thought about that question for the rest of the day. Sarah, Derek, and Jessica had spent months planning my destruction. They'd plotted to steal my money, ruin my reputation, and leave me with nothing. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated the man they were trying to destroy. That night, I made a list of everything I'd lost and everything I planned to take back. Then I made another list of everything I was going to take from them. By the time I was finished, the second list was much longer than the first. I started with Derek because he was the easiest target. A man who builds his life on lies has a lot of weak spots, and I intended to exploit every one of them. On Thursday morning, I drove to Flex Fitness, the upscale gym where Derek worked as a personal trainer. The place was full of suburban housewives and middle-aged men trying to recapture their youth, perfect customers for Derek's brand of manufactured charm. I found him in the free weight section, posing for selfies between sets. Even here, he was performing for his social media audience, every movement calculated for maximum visual impact. "Derek," I said, walking up behind him, "we need to talk." He spun around, his face cycling through surprise, fear, and finally settling on fake confidence. Jack, what are you doing here? Research. I've been learning a lot about you lately. Or should I say, Derek Kowalski. The color drained from his face. Around us, other gym members were starting to stare. Derek grabbed my arm and tried to steer me toward a quieter corner, but I didn't budge. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Sure you do. Cleveland, remember? The fraud charges, the identity theft, the restraining orders from 3 different women? Derek's grip on my arm tightened. You need to leave, now. Actually, I think I'll stay. I'm considering a membership here. But first, I want to ask the manager about their policy on hiring convicted felons. You son of a bitch. Derek swung at me, just like he had at the party. But this time I was ready for him. I caught his wrist and twisted, using his own momentum to send him stumbling backward into a rack of dumbbells. The crash echoed through the gym like a gunshot. Assault, I said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. In front of witnesses. That's going to look great on your probation report. Derek scrambled to his feet, his face red with rage and embarrassment. I'm not on probation. No? Then what do you call those monthly check-ins with Officer Martinez in Cleveland? Social visits? The gym manager, a muscular woman named Carol, appeared at Derek's shoulder. What's going on here? This man attacked me, Derek said, pointing at me. After I mentioned his criminal record, I added helpfully. Fraud, identity theft, stalking. You might want to run a background check on your employees, Carol. Carol's expression shifted from concern to suspicion. Derek, is this true? He's lying. He's just upset because his wife left him for me. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, I have documentation. Court records, arrest reports, even some interesting photos of Derek with other people's wives. Turns out romance scams are his specialty. I showed Carol the photos Maria had uncovered. Derek with at least 6 different women, all of them married, all of them eventually bilked out of money or property. Sarah wasn't his first victim, and she wouldn't be his last. Derek, Carol said slowly, you're fired. Security will escort you out. You can't do this. I can, and I am. Clean out your locker and leave. As security led Derek away, he turned back to me with pure hatred in his eyes. This isn't over, Jack. You're right, I said. It's just getting started. My next stop was Sarah's law firm. Whitman and Associates occupied the top floor of Millfield's only high-rise, a glass and steel monument to legal ambition. I'd been there dozens of times over the years, usually for firm parties or charity events where Sarah showed me off as her blue-collar husband. The receptionist, a young woman named Amy, recognized me immediately. Mr. Sullivan, I heard about… how are you doing? I'm doing great, Amy. Is Mr. Whitman in? He's in a meeting, but I can see if… That's okay. I'll wait. I sat in the plush reception area, surrounded by law books and awards, and thought about all the times I'd felt intimidated by this place. Sarah had always made sure I knew I didn't belong here, that I was just the mechanic husband who paid the bills while she did the important work. Not anymore. When Richard Whitman emerged from his office, he looked surprised to see me. Jack, what brings you here? Richard was in his 60s, a distinguished man with silver hair and expensive suits. He'd built his firm from nothing, just like I'd built my business. I respected him, and I thought he respected me. I need to discuss something confidential with you, Richard, about Sarah and Jessica. His expression grew cautious. Jack, I heard about your marital troubles. I'm sorry, but I can't discuss Sarah's employment with you. Even if she's been stealing from client accounts? Richard's face went white. What did you say? I handed him a folder containing copies of all the evidence Maria had uncovered. Bank records, forged signatures, client complaints that had been mysteriously resolved. $30,000 in embezzled funds, carefully hidden across multiple accounts. Jesus Christ, Richard whispered as he flipped through the documents. How long has this been going on? 2 years at least, and Jessica Palmer's been helping her cover it up. Richard sank into a chair, suddenly looking every one of his 60-plus years. This will destroy the firm. 25 years of building a reputation, and 2 associates are going to bring it all down. It doesn't have to, I said. Handle it quietly. Fire them, make restitution to the clients, and it stays between us. Why? Why would you help me after what Sarah's done to you? Because you're a good man, Richard. And because I want Sarah to lose everything that matters to her, starting with her career. Richard stared at me for a long moment. You've changed, Jack. There's something different about you. Yeah, I said, standing up. I stopped being a victim. By 5 o'clock that afternoon, both Sarah and Jessica had been fired from Whitman and Associates. Security escorted them out of the building with their personal belongings in cardboard boxes, just like they'd done to Derek at the gym. I watched from across the street as Sarah stood on the sidewalk, clutching her box of desk supplies and crying. Jessica was on her phone, probably calling Derek to tell him their plan had fallen apart. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Jack, please. We need to talk. I can explain everything. I deleted the message without responding. That evening, I had dinner at Murphy's Tavern, the same place where my marriage had died 4 days earlier. The bartender, Mike, gave me a sympathetic nod as I ordered a burger and a beer. Heard about what happened at the law firm, he said. Rough week for your wife. Ex-wife, I corrected, and it's about to get rougher. Tommy found me there around 8 o'clock, sliding into the booth across from me. Jesus, Jack, the whole town's talking about what you did today. Derek getting fired, Sarah and Jessica getting escorted out of their office. People are saying you've lost your mind. Have I? I don't know. Have you? I took a long drink of my beer, considering the question. A week ago, I thought I had a good marriage, loyal friends, and a secure future. Now I know my wife's a thief, her best friend's been plotting against me for years, and her boyfriend's a career criminal. So either I've lost my mind, or I've finally found it. Tommy leaned back, studying my face. What's your end game here, Jack? You've destroyed their careers, exposed their secrets. Isn't that enough? Not even close. Then what do you want? I thought about Sarah's text message, her desperate plea to explain everything. I thought about Jessica's smug confidence when she'd told me Sarah was going to take everything I'd worked for. I thought about Derek's hands on my wife, his mocking smile when he'd thanked me for sharing her. I want them to understand what it feels like to lose everything, I said. I want them to know what it's like to be betrayed by people they trust. And I want them to realize that actions have consequences. That sounds like revenge, not justice. Sometimes they're the same thing. Tommy shook his head. Be careful, Jack. Revenge has a way of consuming the people who pursue it. Maybe, but right now, it's the only thing keeping me warm at night. After Tommy left, I sat alone in the booth where Sarah and I had shared our first date 23 years ago. Back then, she'd been a law student with big dreams, and I'd been a young mechanic with calloused hands and bigger dreams. We'd built something together. A life, a home, a future. And she'd thrown it all away for a con man with good abs and a fake name. But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for. Maria Santos, the private investigator who'd helped me uncover the truth. Maria, I said when she answered, it's Jack Sullivan. I need to hire you for another job. What kind of job? The kind that ends with 3 people wishing they'd never heard my name. The final phase of my plan required patience, precision, and a level of calculated cruelty that would have horrified the man I'd been 2 weeks ago. But that man had died in Murphy's Tavern along with my marriage, and what had taken his place was something harder, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. Maria had outdone herself. The information she'd gathered on Sarah, Jessica, and Derek read like a criminal conspiracy handbook. Forged documents, fraudulent loan applications, and a paper trail that led directly back to my business accounts. They hadn't just been planning to steal from me. They'd already started. The loan application is particularly damning, Maria explained as we sat in her car outside the Millfield courthouse. Sarah forged your signature on a $50,000 business loan, using your shop as collateral. The money went straight into an account controlled by Derek. When? 3 days ago, right after she got fired from the law firm. I felt a cold rage settle in my chest. Even after being exposed, even after losing her job, Sarah was still trying to rob me blind. There's more, Maria continued. Jessica's been feeding information to Sarah's divorce attorney, strategy memos, asset valuations, even transcripts of privileged conversations. She's been setting you up for a complete financial destruction. And Derek? Derek's been busy too. He's got 3 other women on the hook right now, all of them married, all of them being slowly bled dry. Sarah's just his biggest score. I stared at the courthouse steps, where in 6 hours I'd be facing Sarah and her lawyer in our first official divorce proceeding. She thought she held all the cards. She thought I was just the broken-hearted husband who'd roll over and let her take everything. She was about to learn otherwise. Maria, I need you to do one more thing for me. What's that? Call the FBI. The divorce hearing was scheduled for 2 o'clock in Judge Morrison's courtroom. Sarah arrived with her new attorney, a shark named David Price, who specialized in high-asset divorces. She was dressed conservatively, playing the role of the wronged wife who'd made one mistake and deserved forgiveness. Derek wasn't with her, which was smart. Jessica was, sitting in the gallery like a supportive friend instead of a co-conspirator. They all looked confident, prepared, ready to carve me up and divide the pieces. I sat alone at the defendant's table, having fired my own lawyer that morning. Sarah's team probably thought I was having a breakdown, representing myself in a complex divorce case. They had no idea what was coming. Judge Morrison called the hearing to order, and Price immediately launched into his opening statement. Sarah was the victim of an abusive, controlling husband who'd humiliated her publicly and was now trying to hide assets. She deserved the house, half the business, and substantial alimony. It was a masterful performance, full of legal jargon and emotional manipulation. Price was good at his job. Too bad his client was a criminal. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up slowly and looked directly at Sarah. For just a moment, I saw uncertainty flicker across her face. Your Honor, I said, I'd like to present evidence of criminal activity that directly relates to this divorce case. Price was on his feet immediately. Objection. This is a civil proceeding, not a criminal trial. Overruled, Judge Morrison said. I'll allow it. Proceed, Mr. Sullivan. I opened my briefcase and pulled out the folder Maria had prepared. Your Honor, I have evidence that my wife, Sarah Sullivan, has committed embezzlement, fraud, and forgery. Her attorney, Mr. Price, has been receiving privileged information from a co-conspirator, Jessica Palmer, in violation of legal ethics rules. And Sarah's boyfriend, Derek Kowalski, is a career criminal who's been running romance scams with my wife's assistance. The courtroom erupted. Price was shouting objections. Sarah was pale as a ghost, and Jessica was edging toward the exit. Furthermore, I continued, raising my voice above the chaos, 3 days ago, Sarah forged my signature on a $50,000 loan using my business as collateral. The money was transferred to accounts controlled by Derek Kowalski, who is currently wanted by the FBI for interstate fraud. Judge Morrison banged his gavel. Order. Mr. Sullivan, these are serious accusations. Do you have proof? I do, Your Honor. I handed copies of the evidence to the judge and to Price, who looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Bank records, forged signatures, email threads, photographs. Everything Maria had uncovered, laid out in devastating detail. Your Honor, Price stammered, I had no knowledge of any criminal activity. If these allegations are true, I move to withdraw from this case immediately. Motion granted, Judge Morrison said, still reading through the evidence. Mrs. Sullivan, you have the right to remain silent, but I strongly advise you to obtain new counsel immediately. Sarah was crying now, her carefully constructed facade crumbling in real time. Jack, please. I can explain. No need to explain, I said. The FBI will be here shortly to arrest you and your friends. I thought you should know that everything you tried to steal from me is now evidence in a federal case. That's when Jessica made her move. She bolted for the courtroom door, but 2 federal agents were waiting in the hallway. I'd timed everything perfectly. Derek was arrested at the gym an hour later, still trying to convince his latest victim to invest in his fake supplement company. Sarah was taken into custody at the courthouse, still in her conservative dress and pearls. Jessica lasted the longest, holed up in her apartment with a lawyer on speed dial. But when the FBI showed her the evidence of her involvement in the embezzlement scheme, she folded like a house of cards. By 6 o'clock that evening, all 3 of them were in federal custody, facing charges that would put them away for years. I stood in the courthouse parking lot, watching the news vans arrive. The story was already spreading. Prominent local lawyer and her friends arrested in elaborate fraud scheme. Sarah's reputation was destroyed, her career was over, and her future was measured in prison sentences instead of years. Tommy found me there as the sun was setting. Jesus, Jack, you didn't just get revenge, you nuked them from orbit. They earned it. What happens now? Now I go home. To my house, my business, my life. The life they tried to steal. And them? I looked back at the courthouse, where Sarah had spent the last 5 years of her career prosecuting criminals. The irony was almost too perfect. They'll have plenty of time to think about their choices. Federal prison is very educational, I hear. Tommy shook his head. You know, a week ago, I thought Sarah had destroyed you. Turns out she just revealed who you really were. Maybe. Or maybe she created something new. Either way, remind me never to cross you. I laughed, and for the first time in 2 weeks, it felt genuine. Don't cheat on your wife with career criminals and we'll be fine. That night, I moved out of the Millfield Motor Lodge and back into my house. Our house. My house now. I walked through the rooms Sarah and I had shared for 15 years, seeing them with new eyes. In the bedroom, I found the red dress she'd worn to her birthday party, still hanging in the closet like evidence of her betrayal. I threw it in the garbage, along with everything else that reminded me of the woman I'd thought I'd married. In her home office, I found more evidence of the conspiracy. Printed emails, financial documents, even a handwritten timeline of their plan to destroy me. Sarah had been thorough. I'd give her that. Too bad she hadn't been smart. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over, Jack. When I get out, you'll pay for what you did. Derek, calling from jail. I showed the message to the FBI agent who'd been assigned to the case. He smiled and added it to Derek's file. Witness intimidation, he said. That's another 5 years. I deleted the message and blocked the number. Derek would be an old man before he saw the outside of a prison cell, and Sarah would be right behind him. Jessica's sentence would probably be lighter. She'd been smart enough to cooperate with the investigation, but her legal career was over. No firm would ever hire a lawyer who'd been convicted of embezzlement and conspiracy. 3 lives destroyed, 3 futures ruined, 3 people who'd learned too late that actions have consequences. I should have felt guilty, remorseful. Some part of me should have regretted the complete destruction I'd brought down on the people who'd once been closest to me. But I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. For 20 years, I'd been the good husband, the reliable provider, the man who worked hard and asked for nothing in return. I'd built a business, supported my wife's career, and never complained when she treated me like a second-class citizen in my own home. And what had it gotten me? A cheating wife, a stolen fortune, and a plan to destroy everything I'd worked for. Well, Now they knew what destruction really looked like. I poured myself a whiskey, the good stuff, not the cheap bourbon I'd been drinking at the motel, and sat in my living room, surrounded by the life I'd reclaimed. Tomorrow, I'd reopen my business. I'd rebuild my reputation. I'd start over, older and wiser and infinitely more dangerous to anyone who tried to cross me. But tonight, I'd celebrate the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. The phone rang, probably a reporter wanting a quote about the scandal that had rocked our small town. I let it go to voicemail. I had nothing more to say. The evidence had spoken for itself, the justice system had done its job, and 3 criminals were exactly where they belonged. Sometimes the good guys win. Sometimes the cheaters get caught. Sometimes karma comes in the form of a mechanic with a briefcase full of evidence and nothing left to lose. Sarah had been right about one thing at her birthday party. She'd shown everyone what a real man looked like. She just hadn't expected it to be her husband.